Welcome, everyone. I am Tamara Blake Wallace, Planning Commission Administrator. This meeting will be conducted as a hybrid meeting, allowing for both virtual and in-person participation. Serving as moderator tonight is Chris Goldsmith, Development Review Coordinator, who will now go over the rules of etiquette for this meeting. Chris?
Good evening. I'm Chris Goldsmith, the Development Review Coordinator for Calvert County Planning and Zoning, and I will be moderating this evening. This meeting is being recorded on both video and audio for record-keeping purposes. For those attending virtually or on a phone, please keep yourself muted to ensure no interruptions to the evening. If you are asked to speak and you are attending on your phone, you can mute or unmute yourself by using the phone's designated mute button or by pressing *6. If you're on a computer, you can mute and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone/mute button on the toolbar in the bottom left of your screen. You can also mute and unmute by using keyboard shortcuts. Windows users can press Alt-A, Mac users can press Command-Shift-A. When questions or comments are requested of the public, those attending in person will be asked to speak first, and those attending virtually will speak after. If you are attending via phone and would like to ask a question or make a comment when asked, please use the raise hand function by pressing *9, and you will be called upon in turn to identify yourself for the record and speak. If you're attending virtually and would like to ask a question or make comment, please go to the chat icon on your Zoom page and type your comment into that section. Finally, please say your name every time you speak for the benefit of those calling in who cannot see you.
Thank you, Chris. I'll now turn the floor over to the chair to call the meeting to order.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the Calvert County Planning Commission's August 24th, 2022 regular meeting. My name is Maria Bueller, and as chair of the board, I will now call this meeting to order. We will begin with item 1 on the proposed agenda, roll call. Vice Chair Kernan?
Here.
Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Freeland?
Here.
Commissioner Toohey?
Here.
Commissioner Dr. Holler?
Yes.
Commissioner Williams?
Here.
All right, we have a quorum. If you could all please stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
For the next item, we will have action on the proposed agenda.
Commissioners, any changes? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the agenda as proposed. Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Toohey, seconded by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Next on the agenda is action on the proposed summary of actions.
All right, we have 2 here. I will entertain a motion or discussion for the July 20th, 22 Planning Commission public hearing.
If there's no discussion, I move that we accept them both. I will second.
We need 2 separate motions. I'm sorry.
I apologize. In that case, I move that we accept the public hearing notes as written.
I have a motion by Commissioner Toohey, a second by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. For the July 20th, 2022 Planning Commission regular meeting,
I move that we accept those as proposed. I will again second that.
I have a motion by Commissioner Toohey, seconded by Commissioner Jones. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, next on the agenda is recognition of persons attending the meeting. Tonight, from the Department of Planning and Zoning, we have in attendance Mary Beth Cook, Director. We have virtually Judy Makel, Deputy Director of Zoning. We have Jenny Plummer-Welker, Long Range Planning. We have Olivia Vidato, Planner 3. We have Jessica Gattano, Planner 2, virtually, and Kathleen Lockwood, Planner 1. Also in attendance with us tonight is our Associate County Attorney, Pam Lucas. She'll be providing legal counsel for us tonight. And then we have Becky Parkinson, our recording clerk. Next on the agenda, item 6 is major subdivisions for preliminary review and action. We have one item, item 6A, SD 13H200, Wyatt's Ridge, lots 1 through 24, tax map 11, parcel 123, and it's zoned RCD.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Olivia Vidato, Planner 3 with the Development Review section of Planning and Zoning. This project is SD-138200, Wyatt's Ridge, lots 1 through 24, preliminary plan. This is the tax map that shows the location. This project is off of Skinner's Turn Road in Owings. Topographical map. The aerial, which also shows some of your adjacent subdivisions. Shows the fields and the woods, and the very dark little area on the west side is a pond. And then this is the site, the preliminary plan that is before you tonight. The lots are outlined in red. You have the green areas, which are your wooded area, and a lot of that is also forest retention area, and then also open space. The site is located on the south side of Skinner's Turn Road in Owings off of Route 4 and off of Route 2. The site is comprised of 100.036 acres that is zoned Rural Community District. This parcel is within Tier 3, and the public hearing for that was held on July 20th, 2022, and approved for compliance with the established criteria by the Planning Commission as required per the 2012 laws of the Maryland Chapter 149. With no conditions. At that hearing, adjacent property owners attended and expressed concerns regarding the road, the traffic, and the proposed subdivision. I met with them on August 8th, and I'd like to read just a summary of that meeting into the record. That way we have it on record, but also anybody that was not able to attend that meeting that night that might be listening in can hear again what was discussed. Their concerns had to do with the following items. Property values. I explained the cost and the purchase of land, the engineering work and construction, what goes into the value of lots and the price point for a house. Also pointed out that currently in a vacant lot within the adjacent subdivision of Danbridge, there is a house that is under construction, and the contract on that right now is $850,000. So lots going into this subdivision would be comparable. Adding traffic onto Skinner's Turn Road. A traffic impact analysis form is submitted with the preliminary plan submittal or at the concept plan level. As a general rule, each residential lot is designated 10 average daily trips per lot. Per the Calvert County Traffic Impact Analysis Ordinance, subdivisions or developments that generate less than 400 average daily trips do not need to prepare a full-fledged traffic study. And I explained that, the traffic studies are required if you go above that number. In this case, we were at 240. This subdivision proposes and is required to have an XLD cell lane. Those lanes will help the flow of traffic to continue in that area with minimal impacts and will keep the traffic turning into the subdivision safe. There was a question about the site distance coming out of this subdivision. Part of the road plan submittal, a site distance analysis plan is prepared for review that demonstrates the site distance for the road intersecting Skinner's Turn Road, and that has to meet all of the road ordinance standards as well. As of the last review of the road plans, which have been submitted, the site distance is adequate. Getting on to Maryland Route 2 or Maryland Route 4, because Skinner's Turn Road connects to both. The concerns are the access. It's dangerous. There's currently no signal light. There's a flashing light on the Route 4 side. As I explained to everybody that night, they are both state roads, so improvements would be through the State Highway Administration. We had a lot of discussion of how both areas had issues for decades, and I did forward them contact information for Jonathan Meckloff through the State Highway Administration to get more information if there were any planned improvements for either Maryland Route 2 or Route 4 in the future. They had questions about the noise during construction. Calvert County does not have regulations regarding noise. This is handled by the Sheriff's Department. So I did speak with a deputy who stated that the regulations for construction or noise are from 7 a.m. in the morning till 10 p.m. at night, and that is for any day of the week. He also said if there were ever any issues, please don't hesitate to call them, and I did pass that on as well. I also pointed out to them that because of the adequate public facilities policy in our ordinance, we have a public facilities report that is issued twice a year with the student counts for the schools. If the schools are closed, and all 3 schools have to be open that serve that subdivision, so elementary, middle, and high school have to be open, this subdivision could actually be on hold once it gets preliminary approval and not be able to record for up to 6 years. So the traffic that we currently have and issues, that's more than likely going to be extremely different. There may be some improvements that are done in the meantime before this gets recorded, but they were unaware of that, so I think that helped appease a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and read through the staff report, just pointing out any items that are not the normal conditions that we have. I did give everybody, I have a few typos, which I'll read those into the record, just so that you could follow along on that. Currently, there is an existing house that was built in 1971 on that property that will be removed. The property consists primarily of woods with some open fields, as we saw in the aerial. There is a pond on the western side that also has wetlands and steep slopes that continues along that area. Parcel 123 consists of 100.36 acres within the RCD. So the conventional density, once you do all the deductions for the density cuts, is 6 conventional lots. Transfer development rights, using those, it's possible to exceed the conventional density up to a maximum of 1 lot per 10 acres. That gives them 3 TDR lots. In a receiving area, which this is in, it's also possible to exceed that density up to a maximum of 1 lot per 10 acres. So when you add all of those together, or for receiving areas that are more than 1 mile from a town center, the maximum density is 1 lot per 4 acres. When you add all of those, you have 3 TDR lots and 15 receiving area lots that will require the use of 5 TDRs per lot, for a total of 24 lots in this subdivision. There is a public right-of-way that is proposed and also a private lane that comes in off the end of the public right-of-way. The subdivision has been reviewed by staff. It finds that it is consistent with the Calvert County Comprehensive Plan and in compliance with the Calvert County zoning ordinance, subdivision regulations, as well as other applicable county ordinances and design standards. Therefore, staff recommends approval of SD-138200 Wyatt's Ridge, lots 1 through 24, subject to the following conditions. Condition number 4, I just want to point out there, down near the bottom, it should be 17 lots. It's 17.5, rounded down to 17. Number 6, this is a transfer zone subdivision that requires clustering and 50% open space to be platted. 50% open space requirement is 50.184 acres, and they are providing 50.186, so they do exceed the open space requirement. In accordance with Article 5-2, there is a front roadway buffer required. It's 100 foot in width. It's shown on the preliminary plan, and any area that is not currently wooded will have to be planted. The focal point requirement is being met with a monumental sign and landscaping at the entrance that will also be shown on the improvement plan. Item number 13, if that could be corrected to Wyatt's Lane. That is the street tree provision. Number 14, the first 3 lots to be created for residential purposes are exempt from the adequate public facility ordinance. So they actually could do 3 lots without the schools being open. I can't speak in this situation, but a lot of times they don't. They forego that because once you get in there and start working on putting in a road and driveways, you really want to be doing all of it at one time. Item number 16, Per Article 5-201D6, fencing is required along any parcels that have agricultural uses or agricultural preservation districts. Parcels 124 and 191 are properties that adjoin the proposed parcel, and they are assessed as with agricultural uses. There is existing fencing along the boundary of both parcels that will remain, and that will be noted on the final plat. Item number 23, any impact to or removal of specimen trees within the project limits require an administrative variance to be approved. The Board of Appeals hearing on August 4th, 2022 approved the removal of the specimen trees that they had listed with no conditions. Item number 32, I don't usually point this out, it's standard, but I wanted to in this case because of the concerns on the road. A widening strip of sufficient width along the entire frontage of Skinner's Turn Road to provide an ultimate 60-foot right-of-way shall be deeded to Calvert County. This deed comes in with the final plat and is recorded. The widening strip is also shown on the deed to provide future widening of Skinner's Turn Road. I do not have any other items that I marked to bring to your attention. I am happy to answer any questions that I can, and the engineer is also here tonight as well.
Thank you, Olivia. Commissioners, questions, comments?
I had a question, Olivia, about what is the historical significance of this property? There's something on there that's historical, right?
It meets the historic as far as being over 50 years old. I don't believe that the actual.
That's the 1971 house?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, I'm historic too.
So am I.
Okay. Thanks.
So, yes, and the historic preservation planner can go out and take pictures and note anything that's noteworthy before it comes down.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
For there to be a traffic study, there needs to be 400, what did you say? 400?
It's trips generated, daily trips generated, so they average 10 per lot is what the count that they do. So 10 trips in and out per lot. Once you get to 400 or more, that's when you have to do a full-blown traffic study. With 24 lots, you're at 240.
And I was just reading on the application, it looks like 6 lots are considered a subdivision, right? So that's what it said on the application anyway. That's a procedural thing then, with Calvert County.
Yes, that's what's in our regulations.
We might want to readdress that at some point, so, okay, thanks.
Question.
Olivia, you mentioned
Yes.
an existing fence. May I-
Yes. Well, no, I thought I could hear.
Commissioner
somebody-
Kernan has a question also.
Yes, okay.
You mentioned
Actually,
an
it's not a
existing
question.
fence.
There's a concern that people on Zoom cannot hear commissioners asking questions. So I'll ask that you all speak directly into your microphones, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
All right, Greg, how's that? Is that better?
That is better. Thank you. Thank you.
Olivia, the existing fence, is that fence connected to this property, or is it a fence of the adjoining property, and what type of fence is it?
I believe that the fences are on what would have been believed to be the property line when they were put in. I believe they're the typical farm, chain link fencing, but the engineer can probably answer that better.
Want to come up to the mic, and if you could just state your name, please.
My name is Jeff Martis from COA. I believe the fencing is posts with barbed wire.
And do you know the condition of the fence? Is it maintained?
To the best of my knowledge, it is. The little fencing I saw, I haven't gone around the full boundary of the site. Our survey crew did at one point when they were out there surveying everything, but personally, I've only saw a little area of the fencing.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions at this time? Do we have anybody from the public that signed up to speak on this?
None online, madam.
None online? No, does anybody wish to speak on this? If you'd like to, come on up, please.
And I now do have a hand up.
Okay. And if you could please just state your name.
My name is Bob Estes, and this is just for my own information. The lot that has the pond and the wetland, is that part of that lot, or is that just happen to be there, or what sort of responsibilities do the owners have to that pond and probably the wetlands as well?
So the pond is contained completely within that lot. I can't read the lot number from here, sorry. So they would be responsible for maintaining that area and any wetlands around it.
And so does the county periodically inspect that to make sure that they're complying?
That is not a question that I can answer. I would defer that to COA if they could answer that.
Good afternoon or evening. Joe Kajeski with Collins and Olaf and Associates. The pond, I believe, right now is not a stormwater management pond that is inspected by the county. It wasn't designated as, under their inspection criteria. Not sure how the pond was constructed. Probably an older farm pond. And I think the idea at this point is to maintain the pond and put in the covenants that it's going to be the responsibility of the lot owner that purchases that lot. We believe it's going to be a good amenity actually for that property and that lot owner. However, I don't see it being ever required to be inspected by the county because it's not a true stormwater management device.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Person on Zoom?
Okay, I have Miss Sarah Vance on the line. Can you unmute Miss Vance? There you go.
Hi, I'm having trouble hearing, but I think I was called up.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'm Sarah Vance from 7414 Danbridge Lane. If this is approved, I will gain not one but two neighbors to my immediate backyard. And I'd just like to personally say I'm sad to lose my undisturbed meadow view, the wildlife there, and the winter blanket of snow. But on a more serious note, I would like to reiterate my concerns about the traffic impacts to Skinner's Turn Road. It has growing, clearly residential traffic, school bus traffic, and significantly commercial traffic from both employees and customers. I'm a little bit disappointed or frustrated, I guess, being new to the process here. It seems like the public comment phase comes a little bit late, that once everything's been perked, planned, and parceled, now's the time for public comments. And it just feels kind of like a check the box requirement is being checked off here. One example is the trees have already been approved for removal before the development has even been finalized. And then just generally as a citizen, I'd like to express concern for overpopulating and excessive growth of our geographically narrow county. I chose not to live in Waldorf, and I hate to see us going in that direction with so many neighborhoods and commercial developments. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you to Olivia for meeting with us in that special meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I would just like to point out one thing, and I believe I mentioned it the night of the meeting. This is a Tier 3 that required a public hearing and required notification to the adjacent property owners for that reason, state regulations. If this development was not in a Tier 3 and required that, there would be no notification at all. So just wanted to put that out there.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners?
Looking for a motion?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to approve the preliminary plan SD 138200 Wyatt's Ridge with all the conditions as outlined in the staff report.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Tui. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you, Olivia. Next on the agenda, item 7 is long-range planning. Item 7A, a work session, Calvert County Comprehensive Plan amendments, town center expansions.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jenny Plummer-Welker, Long Range Planner. I'm joined this evening by Kathleen Cat Lockwood, Planner 1, who's present with us, and then Jessica Gattano, Planner 2, who's joined us virtually. I'd like to recognize the GIS staff from the Technology Service Department. They have assisted us in preparing the maps for this evening. The purpose of tonight's agenda is a work session on the proposed amendments to the Calvert County Comprehensive Plan, which was adopted in 2019. At the last Planning Commission meeting on July 20th, staff informed you about the Board of County Commissioners directing staff to pursue amendments to the County Comprehensive Plan regarding town center expansions. So first, I'd like to talk about and review the maps for the town centers that are proposed to have changes to their expansions, and then to look at the parts of the comprehensive plan that are proposed to be amended, and then staff will, at the conclusion of my presentation, will be seeking direction from the Planning Commission on how you'd like to proceed. So starting off, the County Comprehensive Plan recognizes 9 town centers. 2 of those are the municipalities of North Beach and Chesapeake Beach, which have their own planning and zoning authority. The other 7 town centers come under the county commissioner's authority. And so those 7 are indicated on the map, and the ones that we'll be looking at this evening are highlighted in red. So there are no changes requested for the town centers of Dunkirk, Owings, and St. Leonard. The commissioners have requested changes to the expansions for Huntingtown, Prince Frederick, Lesbi, and Solomons. And those were, staff met with the Board of County Commissioners on June 7th and June 28th in work sessions. The first town center that I'd like to take us through is Huntingtown. On the left is a close-up view of the county comprehensive plan's future land use map. And on the right is a map showing the proposed change to the Huntingtown Town Center expansion. I would like to note that the expansions with the comprehensive plan adoption don't happen automatically. They are future expansions that would need to go through changes to the county zoning map and then also the town center zoning maps. So this is future expansions that were approved with the adoption of the comprehensive plan. So for this one, the commissioners have asked that the proposed expansion for Huntingtown be removed in its entirety. So it starts at the north with the property that is the Huntingtown High School, so owned by Board of Ed, and then includes all the land down to the southeast corner of Cox Road and Maryland 24, which is the parcel where the church is on. The lands that are proposed to be taken out of the expansion area include land that is currently zoned rural commercial, residential district, and rural community. So as I mentioned, the board seeking to have this removed in its entirety. Moving further south to Prince Frederick, on the left is a close-up from the adopted county comprehensive plan map showing the future land use categories. And the map on the right is also from the adopted comprehensive plan, and it shows 2 phases of Prince Frederick expansion. It shows in the dark purple the current town center boundary plus the areas that would be included in the first expansion. And then the light purple is the phase 2 expansion, which includes areas to the west and then also a sliver to the southeast between Maryland 24 and Maryland 765. On the left is the map we just looked at. Now it's on the right-hand side. The map on, sorry, now it's on the left-hand side. The map on the right is the revised map that shows the current town center area in the dark purple and the reduced expansion area in light purple. So the area proposed to be included in the Prince Frederick expansion includes land that is to the northeast, which is currently zoned employment center. It includes the medical arts building, and it includes areas to the to the west, both north and south of Maryland 231, that's currently zoned employment center. There's a small portion of less than an acre at the intersection of Stokely Road and Prince Frederick Boulevard up near the Market Square, and that's proposed to be included in its expansion so that all of the area on the east side of Prince Frederick Boulevard would be included in the town center. The areas previously identified for the Phase 2 expansion are proposed to be future land use categories of either residential or industrial. The map on the right-hand side shows on the west side the light blue color that would be identified in the comprehensive plan as industrial. It's a comparable category to the employment center. Moving on to, Lesbi and Solomon's town centers. The map on the left is from the county comprehensive plan, and the map on the right is showing the proposed changes. So on the northeast area of Lesbi, there's an area that's currently zoned industrial. It includes the Patuxent Business Park and the land between there and Cove Point Road. That is proposed to be retained in the future expansion. The area, if we move down to Solomon's Town Center, the Dow Peninsula, the area that's in the green hatched area is currently outside the town center. The comprehensive plan adoption would included that as a future expansion area, that portion of Dow remain out and no expansion for Solomon's Town Center. The area that's hatched in green between Solomon's Town Center and Lesbi is identified in the adopted plan as a potential future expansion area, and the commissioners have asked that to be removed as an expansion area. This is a map of the proposed new future land use map. So it takes away those expansion areas that we've just discussed, and then it identifies the future land use categories for the areas that no longer would be expansion areas. So, for example, in the Prince Frederick area, the area that had been proposed in that Phase 2 area would be residential, that orange color. For Huntingtown, it would be the rural residential, and in the Lesbi area, it would either be residential or industrial for the land that's currently zoned employment center on the southeast of town. One of the staff looked through all the maps. This is one map that needs to be changed. The road classification map showed the expansion areas in their entirety, so this map reduces them back to what's being proposed. And then this table shows the comprehensive plan sections that have proposed amendments. It includes the executive summary, which includes one map, the future land use map. It includes the table of contents, which specifically identified the Prince Frederick phasing, and so that title's proposed to change to Prince Frederick expansion. Chapter 3 had the most extensive changes. It includes the future land use map, the map for Prince Frederick, and then text associated with each of the town centers with the proposed changes. And then finally, Chapter 7 is transportation. It includes that road classification map. The changes, the amendments, you received each of these sections of the plan, and the changes are noted in red, either the additions or the strike-throughs. So At this point, I'd like to ask if you have any questions about the presentation thus far, and then I suggest we go through section by section, not page by page, but section by section, to see if you have any questions on the proposed amendments. Dr. Holler.
Yeah, I have one question. I'm a little puzzled. All of the comprehensive plans since the Pleasant Peninsula has anticipated that we would direct growth wherever possible to town centers. We're changing that now. We're not going to do that anymore. We're trying to make the town centers smaller. Did anybody explain why we're doing this? I mean, what was the specific trigger thing that caused us, okay, let's make all these smaller and let's not worry about the future growth going into the countryside? What was the rationale for that?
With the adoption of the the comprehensive plan in 2019, the plan did not reduce the size of any of the town centers that had been adopted in the 2010 comprehensive plan. So there was no, with this proposal, there's no reduction smaller than the existing town center boundaries as they stood with the 2010 plan. There was much discussion on directing growth. The idea was to change the boundaries, one for the town center to accommodate more growth. We do have an agricultural preservation program that relies on the transfer of development rights. And the idea was to accommodate transferable development rights and direct that away from the countryside. So I'm sure I haven't answered your question fully.
No, I think I get the drift. Thank you.
You're welcome. I would like to point out that with the adoption of the 2019, comprehensive plan, the 1 mile radius around the 10 town centers with water and sewer was changed to do the residential areas, those orange areas on the map, versus just arbitrary 1 mile perimeters around them. So that's why you see the orange areas, and then also some of the residential development in the vicinity of Solomons and Lesbi, which is the high density around Chesapeake Ranch Estates, and Chesapeake Ranch Estates was identified also as residential.
Jen, were you given any rationale for the removal of Huntingtown High School from the Huntingtown Town Center? I remember that this board spent a great deal of time discussing that, and if I recall, the reason that we put it in was only for future funding.
The commissioners did discuss that at the work session. I don't recall if it was the first or second one, but the discussion with Huntingtown was that the state does allow for waivers for construction projects for areas that are not priority funded, designated. So the commissioners believe that we did not need the priority funding designation to do any future type of projects with Huntingtown High School.
Thank you.
And Jen, on that project, the only thing we, as recollection serves me right, we voted to put the high school into the town center, and that was it, correct? And I think the commissioners made some changes. Yeah?
There was changes, and I recall that the Planning Commission, there was option A and option B, and the Planning Commission had recommended for one option, and that was the high school only.
So we're going, I guess we're at option D now. Right, so we're taking everything out. What they're asking for is everything to come out.
Yes.
Jenny, there are other schools within the county that are outside of priority funding areas, correct?
Yes, there are. St. Leonard Elementary School being one that is adjacent to, but not inside the town center. I recall that the county had to ask or pointed out to the state that it was adjacent to priority funded area, the St. Leonard Town Center.
And mutual.
The northern, yeah, so the town centers that have schools are Prince Frederick and Lesbi.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, and of course, Chesapeake Beach.
So in this case, there's no benefit to having the school in the town center?
The commissioners believe that it's possible through the waiver system to seek any future funding that may be needed. The state, for construction projects and for, so example, building a new school in a new location or putting on an addition, the state does look whether property is inside or outside a priority funding area, but there is the waiver process.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. If there's no questions on the maps, if we could turn to the amendments. As I mentioned in the executive summary, it would be the map that would be changing, and that's on page E5. So it would be as noted, this map on E5 would be removed, and then the map following on page E6 would be the replacement map. There was no text to change within the executive summary, it was just the map. Moving on to table of contents. On page 1-4, little Roman numeral 1-4, there is a list of figures, tables and figures. Sorry, list of figures, the tables are down below. And that's noted that it would change from Prince Frederick Town Center phasing to Prince Frederick Town Center expansion. The most significant changes and the ones that are describing the town centers, that's in chapter 3. Starting on page 3-2, there was a slight change on that. That was just a correction in the third paragraph about adding a space. But then moving on to where the town centers are described, there are, for example, for Huntingtown, about deleting the description of the expansion area. Same for Prince Frederick, Solomons, and Lesbi. And then changing out the future land use map to the new proposed one. So 315 has the map that would be removed. It's the exact same map from the executive summary. The new map put in its place. And then on Huntingtown, the descriptions of the town centers start on page 3-20. So you can see that in the red text that's either struck through or added, what the changes would be. So Huntingtown, Prince Frederick, Solomons, and Lesbi would change. And as I mentioned, for Chapter 7, for the functional road classification, the map, which is on page 7-9, would be replaced with the map that's on the following page, and it would show the reduced areas for the town centers for Huntingtown, Prince Frederick, Lesbi, and Solomons. Any questions on the proposed map or text amendments? If not, then what staff is seeking is direction from the Planning Commission on how to proceed. You can provide direction to staff by directing us to send the proposed amendments out for agency review. Since this is an amendment to the county comprehensive plan, it must follow the same process that we followed for the adoption of the plan, which is notifying the adjacent jurisdictions and the state at least 60 days in advance of a public hearing. Another option for you is to direct staff to make any changes to the proposed amendments and then proceed through the public hearing process and the 60-day review process, or to make those changes and come back so that you could review them prior to them being sent out, or take no action.
And commissioners, we can go through this town center by town center, correct? For discussion purposes?
I believe so.
Can we do that?
Yes, you can.
It's up, pleasure of the board.
Can we? Yeah.
Yeah,
I'd like to.
if you'd like to,
Yeah.
okay, well then, let's start with Prince Frederick.
Whichever one you wish.
Oh, we'll start with Huntingtown and work our way down, I guess.
That's the only one I really want to talk about. That's with me.
I'll open the floor for discussion.
So just to get back to this, the only thing I'm trying to understand, and I know you might not have the answer to this, Jenny, but we're going through, with the school, they're gonna have to go through a waiver process. And I guess one of the things that we talked about originally was, if my memory serves me right, was if it was in the town center, it precludes a lot of red tape and having to go through a waiver process. I don't know, I just don't know what is the negative effect of the high school only being in the town center. So that is and I don't know if Dr. Holler, if you had anything, this is kind of your wheelhouse a little bit with the school.
Well, we all know this, that the state has been encouraging new facilities that they contribute any of the cost to be in priority funding areas. And priority funding areas are those areas that have water, public water and sewer, or are scheduled, I think, to have it very shortly. So this is not a priority funding area if we take it out. If we leave it in the town center, it will be a priority funding area. Am I right?
One
It'll be within a
clarification, putting it into the town center does not automatically make it a priority funding area. We would need to ask the Maryland Department of Planning and put forth reasonings why to expand the current Huntingtown Town Center priority funding area to include the high school.
They originally adopted the current plan in 19, didn't you already do that?
No, we haven't, because the town center has not expanded yet. We would need to wait until the Huntingtown Town Center is actually officially expanded. The 2019 plan said that in the future, we will expand Huntingtown. Huntingtown Town Center has not been officially expanded through the zoning map process.
Okay, that's my error then. I thought the high school, same as Mr. Jones is speaking, I thought the high school was included in Huntingtown in the last plan. And that you're saying that's not true?
No, Huntingtown Town Center Master Plan has not been updated yet since the adoption, well, it has not been updated since 1993.
Mm-hmm.
95, excuse me, one of the two. So currently, the high school is not in the town center and it's not in the priority funding area. The process would be to officially expand the town center boundary through the zoning map process, and then ask the state to recognize it as an expansion of the priority funding area. To Mr. Jones' comment, I don't know how arduous the waiver process is for the Board of Education to go through, but they have done so for prior school construction projects that are outside priority funding areas. For example, Northern Middle and Northern High School are both outside priority funding areas and have recently been gone through replacement.
What is the negative? I mean, what is the negative of the school being in the town center? Like, what is I'm just trying to understand why are we pulling it out? If you don't know, you don't know, but I'm just.
I cannot speak for the Board of County Commissioners. One concern that has been expressed is for not just Huntingtown, but for expansions of town centers across Maryland 2-4 is the concern for potential
Other expansion?
Growth and development. However, this is a Board of Education property and I'm not likely to get redeveloped.
Okay. I buy it.
Any other comments or questions on Huntingtown? We'd like to move on to Prince Frederick. Okay. Commissioner Williams is going to recuse herself for the Prince Frederick discussion.
So the map on the screen now is the proposed expansion that shows the expansion area in the light purple. So it includes areas to the northeast and the west, both north and south of Maryland 231, and some minor refinements to the boundaries to include entire parcels rather than splitting parcels.
And Jen, the two sections to the north, the one with the medical arts building, right?
Yes.
And then there's the smaller one to the east of that?
Yes.
They were already included in. They're just in a different shade. They're not added into this, are they?
So they were originally part of the Phase 1 expansion. So
Okay.
effectively, there's no change for these.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a different, for the map on the left, it showed, the dark purple showed the Phase 1 expansion as if it had already happened.
Right.
So it includes
Okay.
town center and the Phase 1 expansion, whereas the one on the right shows the current town center boundary in that bright dark purple and the expansion in the lighter purple.
So the net effect is not to add anything at all onto Phase 1's expansion, but it is to add on to the current situation.
I will add to that tiny little sliver that is, shows up on the south of Stokely Road and east of Prince Frederick Boulevard.
Okay, which wasn't in the.
Which was part of Phase 2, which we're seeking to include during this expansion, just so that all of the property on the east side of Prince Frederick Boulevard is included in the town center.
Right, okay.
Yeah.
And that's the only thing. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
We are going to
Yes.
have public comment after the workshop.
Yes.
After,
it's
yep. Commissioners,
Yeah.
go ahead.
So the changes is to take away the Phase 2, all except for that little portion on the east side of Prince Frederick Boulevard, south of Stokely Road. And then include that area that had been the light purple, either as orange, the residential category, or industrial, which is the blue, which includes a lot of the county-owned land down Stafford Road, like the landfill, the highway maintenance.
And the two light purple northern areas that we were discussing, do they allow for expansion of medical facilities that are currently located in that area, or are they just changing the zoning of what's already there?
So the current zoning for the light purple area, and that there's like a little sliver on the east side, that's the Board of Education's property for Calvert Middle School, so it's cleaning up some
okay.
boundary there.
Mhm.
So it's mainly the portion that's north of the hospital. So that is currently zoned employment center, which allows for allows for medical uses, because
Okay.
that zone existed there prior to the construction of the medical arts building. The medical arts building was constructed in the employment center zone.
Okay.
So that when Prince Frederick expands to include that area, the Planning Commission, the county commissioners and staff would need to identify what zoning category that part of the town center would be,
Okay.
and what kind of uses would be allowed in it.
And is there land there for future growth for medical?
I am not certain how much of that area is taken up by parking lot, so I cannot answer
Okay,
that in detail.
okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? We want to bring Commissioner Williams back in. And then we can move on to Lesbi.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Turning now next to Lesbi, any questions on the proposed changes for Lesbi Town Center?
We changed yesterday, the text amendment that we made.
The D1 text amendment for Solomon's.
Right. And that was for assisted living north of Lohr, right?
In the Solomon's Town Center, yes. Mhm.
And there's no other changes other than that, as of yesterday from that. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
And in the Lesbi map, the one that's to my right, I guess to your left, is the new one, correct?
It's on both of
They're
our
right, too.
rights. Yes.
What's that?
It's on there right too.
Oh, it's on there right there. Oh, that's right.
The map on the right, whether you're looking to the front wall or the back wall, depending on where you're oriented. Yes.
So in the old map, there's that crosshatch section on the top.
Yes.
Is that section still included?
So that crosshatch section on the left-hand side between Solomon's and Lesbi was indicated on the map as the potential future expansion area. And that was to be determined during the master plan updates for Solomon's and Lesbi.
Okay.
The proposal is to remove in its entirety that potential future expansion area.
Okay, in the center of the map, and at the top of the map, the highest portion of purple, what is that piece?
That piece is equates to the one on the right-hand side that's in the hatched purple,
Right.
which is the Patuxent Business Park on the west side of H.D. Truman Road, and the area that's north of the Patuxent Business Park, which includes the State Highway Park and Ride, and then also the self-storage area.
Okay, so that is developed and does stay in the town center?
In the proposed expansion area, yes.
Okay, okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And as I previously mentioned, the section of Dow that was adopted to eventually come into the Solomon's Town Center, the commissioners would like to not have that happen, so the Solomon's Town Center keeps its current town center boundaries. And there was the question last month about where the water and sewer areas were for Solomon's Town Center and the Dow Peninsula. And staff researched that, and the entire Dow Peninsula, except for one small parcel, is served by both water and sewer. I believe that comes to the end of the town center expansions, so we're seeking direction.
Any other questions or comments from Planning Commission members? Is anybody from the public that would like to speak?
Certainly.
She is the best.
Again, my name is Bob Estes, and I had a couple of questions about that kind of goldish area. Specifically, I'd like to ask about an area that is west of Prince Frederick Boulevard and just west of Calvert Hills Apartments. Are you familiar with that? area.
Yes.
That area currently is farmland as witnessed by, I think it's sorghum or it might be corn growing on it currently. So what is the current, I guess, zoning for that? I would assume it's agricultural?
That's a great question. I do not know the answer to that.
And it's
Describe the area again.
Calvert,
I could
point to it.
and I will retract my pen. It's right about here. Right about there. That's the old Radio Road or Radio Drive. Maybe you're familiar with that, or maybe not. That's currently in the town center, and it makes me wonder, what would it, so it's probably not currently zoned for anything other than growing crops, right?
Actually, if it's currently in the town center, it's zoned town center. So the county's zoning map has a number of land uses, one of which is town center. And then one refers to the town center zoning map for what the land is zoned within the town center. And I believe that's perhaps entry or village district. So it's not, it may have a use of agriculture, but it's zoned town center.
Okay, I get it. Okay, now the rest of the gold area in there, is it currently zoned, all of it zoned for residential, or would that have to be a change in zoning to get it to be residential?
So if I recall correctly, maybe, just one moment.
I'm sorry.
No worries. I think, let me see, we might have gone over this at the last Planning Commission meeting. And I believe we do. Mr. Darrell Baxter, I believe we have a backup slide. If you could bring that set of slides up, please. We do have a zoning map of Prince Frederick.
That's a good idea.
So I will move on to slide 9 from last month's meeting. So slide 9 shows the proposed phase 1, phase 2 expansion areas with the zoning underlaid. And I know it's a bit difficult to see, but the area that is the yellow that is located, oh, lovely, Darrell, thank you. There on the south side, and if you could go to the north side in the yellow kind of green hatch. So that land is zoned, I believe, residential, rural residential, excuse me. Thank you, residential, Mary Beth. The area to the far west side of 231, on the north side of 231, there we go, a little further west, it's the gray hatched, next one over, sorry. Keep going west, not east, west. There we go, almost, just a little more to the east, bingo.
The other west, yeah.
So that land is zoned employment center. Now the area, the two parcels that we have talked about before with the county commissioners and with the planning commission, which are south of Stokely Road, they're just hatched, they don't have the yellow underlying them. That's rural residential. So we have 3 different zones that are in the current phase 2. We have the residential, that light yellow with the green hatch. We have the gray with the green hatch, which is employment center. And then we have just the green hatch, which is south of Stokely Road, which is the rural residential.
Right, so that's pretty much all that gold area in the other.
Not, it's either gold or it's the blue.
Okay. What's the current maximum density allowed there?
We may have to get back to you. We can write your questions down,
Yeah.
because this is mostly just for comment
Right.
purposes.
Well, I'm trying to lead the commissioners down a road to maybe explain maybe to Dr. Holler why you know, a lot of the residents and citizens did not want it to be town center. We were worried about density, but I understand.
Thank you.
And I have her address, so.
Okay, thank you very much.
We do have one hand up online.
Okay, was there anybody else from the public that wanted to speak? Okay,
Mr. Cormier, you may unmute yourself and speak.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. My name is Joseph Cormier, and I'm from Owings, Maryland. I'm just confused about this Huntingtown expansion. If we have the opportunity to include the high school and avoid a waiver, waivers can be denied. And if we have an opportunity to get rid of red tape, we should take it and include any school property that can be involved in these town centers. And as we talk about these expansions, I haven't heard a lot spoken about capacities as far as sewage and aquifers. We can keep building pipes, but we're pulling from the same water, and we want to expand down 231. There's barely any cell phone coverage down there now, and we want to add more people to it. And are we just going to have to shovel more money into Comcast to add more services when we're already paying them tens of thousands of dollars to get that last mile? What plan are we doing to put that in place before we expand our town centers? And you talked briefly about the TDRs. I'd love to see a map showing the current TDRs that are in that program and which properties that could be part of this town center expansion that could be part of that TDR program that could be put toward a land trust instead. We need to be smart with our growth, and we need to take care of our waterways, and the more expansion we do, the less we're going to be able to protect our waterways. Thank you so much.
thank you. Are there any other hands raised?
No, ma'am.
All right, commissioners?
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
In regards to Solomon, the Lesbi expansion, the removal of the expansion in Lesbi, would there be any impact on the proposed apartments that are going into Lesbi?
The proposed apartments that are working their way through the planning process are within the Lesbi Town Center.
Okay.
So the proposed removal of the potential future expansion area would not impact those.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I believe staff is looking for direction. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we direct staff to send the amendments to agencies for review and to schedule a public hearing and notify the agencies and adjoining jurisdictions in at least 60 days in advance of the public hearing.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Tui, seconded by Commissioner Freeland. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Motion carries.
Thank you, commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Jenny. Next on the agenda, item 8 is items of interest. We have the site plan and subdivision application list.
Tamara, there's someone trying to get a question in, I think.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Question about what?
Hello, are you there?
If someone is trying to speak, you can unmute yourself.
I can see a phone caller ending in 910 that's unmuted, but we hear no audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, now we can hear you. Could you identify yourself? You're muted. Oh, okay.
I'm trying to unmute myself.
You're unmute. You're unmuted. You're just not very loud. Please speak up and identify yourself, please.
I don't know why you can't hear me. I'm louder now?
You're
Yep.
louder than you were, yes, ma'am.
Oh, very, yes, I'm Lila West in Lesbi, 12832 Rio Grande Trail.
And your comment, ma'am?
And I'm talking about the Lesbi,
Yes, ma'am, the Lesbi.
turn up my volume. I'm Lila West of Lesbi. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
12832 Rio Grande Trail. And I'm on the Lake Preservation Committee of Chesapeake Ranch Estates. About the, I'm glad that you removed the expansion of Lesbi. The area is still zoned industrial. The area south of Lesbi Town Center is industrial. That is the last remaining forest in Lesbi. That forest should be preserved as a forest. It's close to the wetlands. It should not be industrial. The county should consider preserving that land. They should not extend the Lesbi Parkway as a road. If anything, put in a bicycle path, but not a road and not more construction. For the Lesbi villas, the Lesbi villas are supposed to be 270 units, but 10% of the land has been taken away since the plan was accepted 19 years ago. So the number of apartments should be cut 10%. Lesbi Town Center has empty lots and empty buildings in the town center. One large lot where the convenience center was moved away. So that we do not need to expand an industrial area south of town.
Thank you.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment, and thank you, Commissioner Kernan. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, moving on, item 8, items of interest. We have the site plan and subdivision application list. Is there any discussion or questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 9, which is public comment. Planning Commissioners will accommodate public comment in person, by telephone, or virtually. Individuals should call in advance if participating by telephone. Toll-free 888-475-4499. Meeting ID 858-5579-4151. And if asked for a passcode, use the pound sign. Speakers, whether in person or participating by telephone or virtually, will be limited to 2 minutes as individuals, or 5 minutes if designated representatives of a group or organization. Do we have anybody online to speak?
I do. I've got Mr. Cormier.
Mr. Cormier, if you'd like to unmute yourself.
Good evening, Commissioners and staff. My name's Joseph Cormier in Owings, Maryland. Again, I want to thank you guys for all the hard work that you do for these commissions and these planning meetings. As we continue to talk about the build out, I also want staff to take into account the need for more emergency services and first responders. You know, we're talking about putting in a new assisted living care facility down in Solomons. That's going to take EMTs 24/7. As we expand out our town centers, it's going to put a larger strain on our EMTs, fire departments, police departments, state police. We need to be cognizant of the load that goes into those. And of course, the school system as we balance out we're going to have to, start talking about redistricting schools at some point, and that's going to be another thing that's going to take a lot of public input and transparency for. So please take all of that into account as we keep moving forward with these meetings. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there anybody else to speak?
I see no other hands online.
Okay, no other hands online, so we'll move to item 10, which is adjournment.
Motion to adjourn?
Second?
I have a motion by Commissioner Jones, seconded by Commissioner Tui. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.